Hi, everybody. We'll be starting momentarily, just letting a few others get signed into the Zoom link. Thank you. Are you ready? Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We want to welcome all the live audiences that are tuning in on all the Mets social channels, as well as SNY. Appreciate everybody's attendance that's here online, and especially to Steve and Sandy. With that, we'll begin. Steve, I'll turn it over to you for some opening remarks before our Q&A.
Hello, everybody. Just want to say this is a great week for the Mets, Francisco, his teammates, and family. And this is a great day for our fans. As I said on Twitter a couple days ago, he's a heck of a player and a great guy. We've now made sure one of our best players in the game will be in a Mets uniform for a long, long time. And I'm thrilled about that. I look at Francisco as a cornerstone of our present and future. I think he's going to lead us to division titles, pennants, and World Series championships. He's all in. I told you, I'm all in, and this should leave no doubt. Let's go Mets. Ready for questions.
Thank you, Steve. A reminder for those that would like to ask a question, use the raise your hand prompt at the bottom of the screen and direct your question to either Steve or Sandy Alderson, our team president, who is on and participating as well. With that, we'll go to our first question. Comes from Steve Gelbs of SNY.
Hey, Steve. Hey, Sandy. This question
Steve.
Really is for both of you, but obviously when you acquire a player of Lindor's ilk, you understand the talent that he brings to the table. But to commit that type of a contract, that type of length, I assume it goes beyond just the talent on the field. So what did you learn about Lindor in this last, month and a half that made you not just comfortable, but excited about committing to him to be one of the cornerstone pieces of this franchise for the next decade?
Well, I mean, I've gotten to know him. I've had a few dinners with Francisco, and he's a special guy. I mean, he's got a winning personality. He's a leader. They love him in the clubhouse. He brings intangibles that you need, if you're gonna win championships, and obviously a great ball player besides. And so, this is a special guy. I've become good friends with him, and we text all the time, and I think the Mets fans are going to love this guy.
From my standpoint, Steve, what's critical in cases where long-term commitments are being made is the player's character. How is this contract going to change his behavior, if at all? And I think, as Steve has pointed out, he seems to be a very special guy and authentic, so that, what we saw over the last 6 weeks was not just a prelude to a contract. It was a prelude to a long-term commitment to the Mets. And I think from a character standpoint, as well as all the other qualities that he brings to the table, we got comfortable over the last 6 weeks.
This next one, it could be for either one of you, whichever whichever one of you wants to take this question, but there were certainly a lot of reports and some pessimism externally as the deadline neared that maybe this wouldn't get done. Was there ever a moment in either of your minds where you thought, you know what, this just isn't going to happen? We'd like it to happen, but it's not going to happen right now.
Well, you never know what's going to happen until it starts to happen, right? I mean, it takes two people to sign a contract, and so I was pretty. I thought I'd put a really good bid on the table, and so I would have been surprised if there wasn't a deal done, given the type of bid I put on the table. Saying that, if somebody doesn't want to do it, there's nothing I can do about it. Thankfully, it came to pass, and so we're all thrilled about it.
Thanks.
Steve, next question comes from Mike Puma of the New York Post.
Maybe.
And we will come back to Mike. Let's move on. Next question from Disha Thozar of the New York Daily News.
Hey, Steve. Good to see you again. You said in the past that, you can take the heat from fans. I guess now that you're on the other side as owner, have you been surprised by some of the backlash you may have received so far? And how does it sort of set up your approach or your expectations on how you interact with them going forward?
Nothing surprises me. I mean, listen, the fans are, they're emotional, they're passionate. They wear their emotions on their sleeve, and that comes with the territory. That comes with being an owner of the New York Mets. And listen, I can take the heat. There's going to be good times. There may be some bad times, and so I'm pretty seasoned. I'm seasoned. I've been in the press before in other situations, so I can handle it.
And then just for Sandy, how satisfied are you with your front office now, how it's developed so far after January? And at this point, are you totally locked in, or are you still looking to maybe make additions there?
Thanks, Tisha. I'm really pleased with the baseball operation. Zach stepped in at a critical time, has really done an excellent job in maintaining our momentum and expanding our personnel capacity and working our way toward opening day. He's just done a great job. As well, we have added a lot of other personnel. So our analytics department, for example, is unrecognizable at this point, in part because some of our new additions haven't even shown up, but just in terms of its size and capability and organization. And part of that comes from assets that we received from Point 72, and part of it's come from additions from outside the organization. So in a lot of different ways, the front office is very different now than it was certainly on November 9th. And I'm really pleased at where we are.
Anthony DiComo of MLB.com is next. Your line's open.
Hey guys, my first question is for Steve. When you came on, you talked about the goal of winning a World Series in the relative short term. With the team that you have on the field right now, we're hours away from opening day. How realistic of a goal do you think that is for you for 2021?
Well, I'm not going to predict a World Series out of the gate. What I do think is we're going to be really competitive, and I do believe we're going to make the playoffs. And once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen, right? So, I'm pretty optimistic. The team looks good to me, and I think the fans are going to really enjoy this team.
My second question is, obviously there are some additional, and in addition to Lindor, there are other pending free agents on the team, most notably Michael Conforto. What is your appetite to continue spending to lock up some or all of these guys?
That's to be determined, right? I mean, each situation is unique. I plan to sit down with his agent at some point and discuss it. We like Michael. He's been a terrific Met, and we'll see if we can get it done. But this is a big moment for him too. He may want to explore his free agency, so we'll see what happens.
Next question comes from Tim Healy of Newsday.
Following up on the Conforto front, what were those negotiations like? And this is for Steve or Sandy. What were those negotiations like this spring, and where did you leave them?
I'll give that to Sandy.
Yeah, I would say, Tim, that our negotiations were brief but cordial, and I do believe there's room for continuing those conversations. And so, I'm hopeful that the dialogue will continue, and we'll see where we end up.
On a different subject, Sandy, did you pick up Rojas's option for 2022, or is he in a potential contract year right now?
His option has not been picked up at this time.
Okay. Next up is Justin Toscano of the Bergen Record. Go ahead, Justin.
Hey, Steve. Good to see you. My first question is for you. Just in the months since you purchased the team, what's the biggest thing you've learned about the ownership side?
Well, there's these are complex organizations. There's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts, and you're dealing with lots of different situations. You're dealing with people, and and I'm learning. Right. I mean, this is a new arena for me. I think I'm starting to get my sea legs here. I'm starting to feel like I'm starting to understand a lot of stuff. And so, but it's a learning process, and I'll continue to learn.
And the next one's for Sandy. As you look at kind of what Anthony mentioned a couple questions ago, just about expiring contracts in the next couple of years, how realistic is it to think that this core could remain intact?
Well, first of all, we've got a great core and a number of players that make up that core. They're homegrown, and so in an ideal situation, you'd love to retain them all. I think the fact is that at some point down the line, we'll have to make some choices, and that will depend on a variety of different considerations. One financial, one performance, one recent history in terms of how the team is done. So a lot of things will go into that, but realistically, we want to look for ways that we can hold on to as many of those players as we can. Our fans love homegrown players. Most fans do with most organizations, and they're special.
Next up is Tim Britton of The Athletic. Your line's open, Tim.
Hi, Steve. You had said something along the lines of, I'm all in and this proves it. I'm wondering, did you feel a need as an owner in your first offseason to prove that you were all in after the way you spoke earlier this winter?
Well, I mean, we were certainly made significant offers to various free agents as an example. We've tried to build up our organization too on front office, and so we've made different attempts to demonstrate that we're serious about this. You can't, like I said, when people want to sign a contract, you need two people to sign a contract, not one. And so it was great to get Francisco over the line. We like him a lot, and so we feel like. And listen, I thought it was a very successful offseason too. We built up our depth. And so we're thrilled where we are, and we're looking forward to the season.
And what have you learned about how negotiations and deal making work in baseball compared to in the finance world or in the art world? How different it is?
Well, I mean, I haven't been in that many negotiations yet in baseball. I assume each one's a little bit different. Maybe each agent style is a little bit different. I'm pretty transparent, pretty open. And, I try to put my best foot forward here and try to get something done. And I think as time goes by, agents will know what my style is, and hopefully we can avoid these last minute fire drills.
Thank you. Next in line is Dave Lennon of Newsday.
Hi, Steve and Sandy. Happy opening day, finally, right?
Exactly.
Steve, just starting with you, just a question for you. after you invest $341 million in a player, I guess there's two ways to look at it. One, because you spent so much on one guy, does it kind of affect what you can do moving forward? Or two, you're the kind of guy that makes a $340 million investment. He's going to keep spending a lot of money. How do we look at it and based on this particular action?
Well, I said at the initial press conference that I wasn't going to, run around and spend money like a drunken sailor, right? I mean, Francisco is a special guy and deserved a special contract. Each situation we're going to evaluate differently. Sometimes when you tie yourself up into long-term deals, it potentially could hurt your flexibility in other areas, and we have to weigh that. So, but we're going to be significant players for terrific, for free agents down the road, and we're going to act like a major market club.
And Sandy, just for you, I mean, how do you feel now to be part of an organization, one of the very few who can spend that kind of money on a player, on a special player, even like Lindor? I mean, that puts you guys into a very particular class of teams in MLB.
Well, it's different, certainly. And I'm much appreciative of the support that Steve has shown in a variety of different ways, including financially. On the other hand, our task not only is to win sustainably over a period of time. And so sometimes decisions have to be made that reflect a longer term view than a shorter one. So, significantly early on in this conference, Steve said he's starting to get his sea legs, and it's tough to get your sea legs if you're a drunken sailor. And so I think Steve has done, a great job of navigating, these issues. And unfortunately, you often get measured by whether you sign a free agent or don't sign a free agent. There's so much else going on, the iceberg below the waterline, where we've made significant progress, and I think will contribute to what we can do longer term.
Ken Davidoff of the New York Post, your line is open.
Hi, guys. As I'm sure, as you know, last week Rob Manfred moved the All-Star game from Atlanta to a site to be determined. Just for both of you, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, listen, I mean, as we know in sports, politics is intersecting with sports. These are always hard decisions. I know the commissioner made a well-considered decision, and I respect that.
Yeah, from my standpoint, I leave it at that. We're focused on opening day, focused on baseball. We hope we have lots of players in the All-Star game, wherever it's played. But from my standpoint, I'm going to put politics aside for at least a few days.
Thanks.
Next up is Bruce Beck of NBC. Bruce, go ahead.
Steve, how much of your business life and personal life is immersed into being the owner of the New York Mets? And do you consider this an occupation or an avocation?
Well, I mean, I've got other things to do. I've got this day job that I'm, as Sandy's talking, I'm looking at my screens. Listen, I have lots of things to do. This is just one of them. I mean, I'm spending a decent amount of my day on the Mets, at least a few hours a day on the Mets. I'm always available if Sandy needs me. I'm thinking about it in my off time, but the good part is we have a really good organization, so they make my life easy, and so the decisions are served up to me in a way that I can make decisions that are well informed, and so I can handle a lot. So I have multiple jobs, and so I'm busy, but I'm enjoying it.
Sandy, what do you think of the fabric of your ball club going into opening day, and how would you define the makeup of your club?
Well, I'm trying to distinguish between fabric and makeup, but we like our team, and it's going to be proven over 162 games, and we haven't played one yet. So, but look, coming into spring training and coming out of spring training, I think we feel the same way. We're excited about the team. It's a good team. I think it's going to be an entertaining team. I think it's captured the imagination of Mets fans, at least for the moment. And so I'm very excited to see, what happens. In terms of, the makeup, the character of the team, I think it's a very tight-knit group, which is interesting because, we have so many new players. But they've really bonded extremely well, I think. And part of that is because of our existing leadership with guys like, Conforto and others, but also because of some of the newer players that came in with, an energy and enthusiasm and commitment, like Lindor, like McCann, like others. So I like the team on the field and I like the team in the clubhouse.
Mike Puma of the Post, let's try your line again, Mike. Go ahead. Mike, we're not hearing you. I promise we'll come back to you, but let's wait till you're at a more secure location.
You might be in space.
We'll give Mike another shot here. Let's go to.
I don't know.
Oops.
Steve.
Mike, go ahead and put yours on mute. We'll come back to you here shortly.
We'll come back when you finish your haircut, Mike.
Eddie Coleman of WFAN. Ed, your line's open.
Hi, guys. One question for each of you. Steve, Michael Conforto was brought up, but any thoughts on possible extensions, eventual extensions for Jacob deGrom and Noah Syndergaard in that light?
Well, I'm going to leave that to Sandy to. We've had conversations with everybody, and we'll figure that out as things progress. It's got to be the right time and right place for everybody. But I'll leave that to Sandy.
Okay. And Sandy, has there been any traction on the makeup games with the Nationals, which could be difficult to figure out?
We have had conversations with Major League Baseball. In the first instance, that's a call that Washington makes under the circumstances. I think that we will get every consideration. So, we'd like to protect off days. And I would suspect that we'd probably get a doubleheader, maybe even two. But the actual dates and the configuration of those games, TBD.
Next up is Bradford Davis of the New York Daily News.
Hi, everyone. First, a question for Steve. You released this, the team released a statement a few weeks ago about anti-Asian violence and, just all of those attackings around the country and in our city as well. And one of the things that was mentioned was communicating with local leaders to, in your words, assist them to put an end to this prejudice and hate. I'm curious on the status of those discussions, who you've spoken to, and if you guys have come to any concrete determinations on how to be involved in sort of this important struggle.
Well, I think we'll take the lead of city officials there. Obviously anything like that is despicable but we're happy to support initiatives in that arena, maybe through our foundation, but we'll take the lead of city and state officials in that area.
Thank you, but I was curious which leaders did you reach out to?
Well, I'll throw that over to Sandy.
Yeah, no, we are just as a little background. We have a number of what I'll call affinity groups within the organization, and one of them is Asian American, and so through that group, we have reached out to a number of people locally here in the community. I can't quote those names to you currently, But this is a very active issue for us and something that, affects our local community. We have a significant Asian American population, within earshot of Citi Field. So this is going to be an ongoing project for us.
Thank you. And one last question for you, Sandy. Well, a few of your players have been asked about, when they were planning or if they were planning to get vaccines. Of course, that is an issue that is, that is a choice that people are allowed to make, and one that a employer cannot, enforce on anyone. But I'm curious to you on how you guys seek the balance, the boundaries that players have on making their own medical choices versus, of course, the obvious incentives, for professionally and publicly, I should say for public health on, getting as many people vaccinated as soon as possible.
It's a very good question. The first and most important thing for us is providing the necessary education to our players. We want to encourage not only our players, but everyone to be vaccinated. I've been vaccinated, and I would encourage anybody in my family who hasn't been, who's not yet eligible, to be vaccinated. So we're going to encourage our players to be vaccinated, but we're also going to provide education. So we will have something in Philadelphia for all of our players, provided by medical staff, not our medical staff, independent medical staff, to try and inform players about the impact on their own health, on the health of their families, and specific questions that they may have. But we very definitely think it's important that we get as many of our players vaccinated as possible, and where there's concern, to address those concerns. But I'm hopeful that we will get a large number of our players vaccinated, as well as our additional traveling party. There are incentives for public health. There are incentives for the kinds, to lift the kind of restrictions that they're faced with now. So there are lots of reasons, and hopefully we'll get as many players vaccinated as possible.
Next question comes from Marley Rivera of ESPN.
Hi, Sandy. It's good to see you. Hi, Steve. Steve, I was talking to Francisco during the spring. We talked a lot, and he said that he talked about that relationship with your family, particularly with your wife, Alexandra. So
Yes.
What kind of connection did they establish? And as a fellow Puerto Rican, I'd like to know if, how is that due to their Puerto Rican roots? How is that?
Well, my in-laws come from the same hometown as Francisco. And so, there's a real connection there. And so Francisco came over the house. There was lots of discussion about the neighborhood and the restaurants and the food and so immediate connection. And it was really nice. And he's a special guy. I mean, he's just warm, sincere, wants to win. He's just one of those people you just love having on your team. And so, I know Alex has reached out to his fiance, and she's new to New York, and she's trying to make it a little easier for her to be comfortable in New York City. And so it's working out pretty well for everybody so far.
And just one quick last one. How's your Spanish?
Pretty lousy. I walk around my own house sometimes, and I don't know if they're talking about me when they're talking Spanish, but I'm not good at it. It's just not.
Next question from Mike Vaccaro of the New York Post. Go ahead, Mike.
Steve, I'm curious, how do you plan on spending your first game as owner?
Well, I'm going to be in my suite, my downstairs suite. I'll be right in the middle of the action, engaging with the fans. And that's Thursday. Today I'll be watching the game on TV and look forward to watching it, right? Like, it'd be nice to get this going.
Do you have a gathering of people over, or is it just going to be you and your family?
Yeah,
Tonight.
just me and my family. But I'll be texting some of my buddies along the way, typical Monday night, a quiet Monday night.
Are those text threads a little different now that one of the members of his own the team?
But what's the question?
I said, are those text threads a little different now that one of the members have his own the team?
Well, yeah, it's certainly something fun to talk about that's different, and everyone's excited about the Mets this year. So, the outpouring of people, friends and acquaintances and fans have been really extraordinary, and they're all excited. So that gets me excited too.
Next question comes from Dave Waldstein of the New York Times.
Hi there, Steve. I'm wondering your feeling going into this game. Do you have a sense that you did your job during the offseason as a principal owner, and now it's up to the players and staff to accomplish what you set forth?
I can't hit the ball. I'm not pitching, so it's ultimately up to the players. You can lay down all sorts of plans. You can acquire players. You can promote players, but ultimately it's up to them to play. And we're there to support them. We're there, to adapt if we need to adapt. But I think our organization has prepared our team to perform well. Obviously we need to be flexible as the season progresses, right? So, the goal is to win, and that's the mantra, and then I know the players want to win too.
Was there a time, because we're going back to the Lindor signing, was there a time when you were a partial owner that you were like, oh, I wish we could get this guy. I wish I owned the team and I would just go out and get this guy. And if so, how satisfying was it to do that with Lindor?
Well, listen, Lindor has been, a special player for a long time. And it was, I gotta give credit for Sandy for pulling off that trade and giving us the opportunity to, in his final year of contract, to, create an extension. And, I thought it was a phenomenal trade for the team and for the fans. And then, I think the icing on the cake is, I didn't know him personally. And once I got to know him personally, and so what an extraordinary individual he was. This is like, I can't think of a better opportunity, for the Mets. So, this is, I'm thrilled to death.
Joel Sherman of the New York Post, your line is open.
Steve, I wonder if you could take us through the end game with Lindor. Who was involved? Is it you, Sandy, and Zach? Is it just you? Is it the player? Is it the agent? And why go to 341? Did you have a line in the sand, or were you going to get this done? I wonder if you could just take us through some of the end game, how it happened, why it happened, and who was involved.
Well, in the end, it was really, Francisco, David, his agent, Sandy, and me. And, obviously, I made a significant bid, and we were waiting to see if they would move off their offer. They finally did. And so then, we started to see the making of a deal. And I thought I put a significant bid on the table. I would have been surprised if we weren't able to accomplish something. And then we played around with signing bonuses and deferral and moved some numbers around to come up with a number that was satisfactory for everybody. And I felt good about where we came out. Francisco came, and David, his agent, was satisfied where they came out, and that's what a good deal looks like, right? Where everyone's happy. So go ahead.
If I could just follow up on that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Is I don't know if you feel like this when you've bought art or there's stuff in the business world. Was your feeling with this, I am signing this player and I'm going to find a way to the end? Or was there a moment where you actually felt like I could walk away from this, even though I like the player and I've learned to like the person?
Well, generally, I don't think it's a good idea in any situation to say, I'm going to do it no matter what. Okay. I think you have to be disciplined. And, whether I'm buying a piece of art, whether I'm doing a business deal, there's a limit to what you're going to do. I don't think you want to pay just anything for a piece of art. And so I tend to be disciplined in that regard. And I think I was disciplined here. I because of my experiences in the art market, in the business world, I've learned to be very disciplined. And I hope that was reflected in how I handled the negotiations. No guarantee it was going to happen. I wanted it to happen, but not at the expense of making a bad deal for myself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question comes from Barry Bloom of Sportico. Go ahead, Barry.
Thank you. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Steve. Steve, having been through the ownership process, what do you feel you're initially about the fabric of the way MLB works? And secondarily, what would you like to see happen as a new owner with the collective bargaining coming up for a new basic agreement?
Well, I'm still early in this. I've been really focused on the Mets. Given the world we're in a Zoom world, I really haven't gotten to know a lot of the other owners. And I really look forward to sitting down with them and getting their views and their wisdom on what's going on in the labor part of the baseball world. So I really can't speak to it right now. It's early. I haven't really formed my opinions yet. And but I expect to delve into that at some point. And once we get into the season and I get the opportunity to meet some of these owners and MLB people in person. And so I would say it's a little early for me to comment on that.
So where do you think you guys are going to be in the second season affected by COVID financially? How much revenue losses do you think they're going to be, and overall the financial stability of the team? Obviously, for the long term, you're bullish on it when you sign a contract like this.
Well, when I bought this team, obviously COVID was a consideration and was reflected in the bid that I made. And I knew this year could be a difficult year financially for the Mets, given we just didn't know what the revenues were going to be, right? We're starting the year with 20% capacity, right? So revenues are going to be significantly affected, but I factored that into my bid. I didn't buy this team for a 1 year, concern about revenues. I bought this for a 30-year view on what I thought the Mets could be. And so I'm not really concerned about it. And frankly, I'm optimistic given the pace of vaccinations that, the state and city will loosen up capacity restrictions as we go along.
Thank you. Next up is Tina Servasio of Fox 5.
Thank you. And I apologize if either of you have spoke about this already. Like Mike Puma, I'm having a lot of internet trouble, so I keep dropping out. But my first question is for Steve. And Steve, as a fan, what has it been like for you to just wait these extra 4 days for the season opener and your first game as the owner of the Mets? What's it been like for you?
I'm okay. I'm a patient guy. There's a lot of games coming up. And obviously I know the players are probably raring to go. And so I know they were sitting in Washington for a few days and a little bit they're probably going stir crazy getting ready to go. So I'm sure they're pretty excited to get going, and here we are, right? Time moves. So let's get going already. And I'm looking forward to tonight.
Thank you so much. And for Sandy, with all the changes in the front office over the last year and with everything this team has gone through with COVID-19, including this first series getting postponed, What has impressed you the most about the way Luis Rojas has handled all of this?
Well, Louis is calm in the face of uncertainty. And I think that personality, that aspect of his personality comes through. Often with leadership, it's more about how it's demonstrated in difficult times than in good times. And so Louis has been great through the entire spring training. Obviously, he was subject to these COVID limitations last year, so there's a certain amount of learning that's already taken place. But in terms of keeping the team ready and motivated, particularly over the last 4 days, every confidence that Louis has done that. We've continued workout schedules, but he has a direct way about him, but it's a very personal way as well. And so when he gets his message across to the players, generally speaking, it's well understood and well reasoned. So very happy with the way Louis handled things.
All right, Disha, we're going to come back to you. Your line is open.
Hey, Sandy, I guess this is for you since you just touched on the vaccine, but what's your opinion of players saying that it's more of a personal choice? And just generally, have you sensed some hesitation from their end? And is that maybe why you've set up further education on the topic?
Yeah, there has been some hesitation on the part of some players, and that is why we've set up the education. Unless we had 100% buy-in, education was appropriate, and in fact, probably appropriate anyway, given the number of questions that kind of circulate around this. We want to get as many players vaccinated as possible, and I think that's in the best interest of the team. It's in the best interest of their families. It's in the best interest of those who work with the players. So I hope, that in addition to their own personal medical considerations, that they take all of those things into consideration as well. We're hopeful they will.
All right, time for a couple more. Ron Blum of AP, your line is open, Ron.
Hey, Steve, during the past 5 months, what has surprised you most about running a baseball team and the tasks that involve you?
Well, they're not easy decisions. I mean, you're dealing with, they're, some of these decisions are like, they're not like, you have to really be thoughtful about it. And there's no guarantee you're going to make the right decision, right? I mean, I guess that's true in any business decision. And so, these are player decisions, or they're, and you're dealing with imperfect information, right? You're dealing with probabilities, and you can do everything right, and then a player won't sign with you, right? Or they decide to go in a different place, or it's just which means you got to have a plan B and a plan C. And so, that's how it works. And you can lay everything down on a piece of paper, but you gotta be flexible and be willing to adapt.
How is it different than you expected going in?
Well, it's not really all that different, it's just more about dealing with the day-to-day, it's not all that different than my hedge fund, in the sense that you walk in every day and new things pop up. People get injured, right? Opportunities come up to trade for somebody in the off season, or you have to make a decision on somebody. So it's constantly moving, it's evolving, and you have to be ready to make quick decisions, which I'm actually pretty good at. So.
All right, final question this afternoon comes from Rich Catino of ESPN Radio. Go ahead, Rich, your line's open.
Hello, all. Quick question on the roster going into opening day. Sandy, you had said in the offseason one thing you wanted to improve was the defense of this team, and that was reinforced by Luis Rojas talking about it constantly in spring training. Obviously, Lindor brings his Gold Glove to the field every day, but you made some other acquisitions to improve the defense. How much of an impact do you think that's going to have in your trek in the National League East?
Well, we did want to make an effort to improve our defense, and I think to some extent that we have. Certainly, if you look up the middle, we've improved at the two keystone infield positions. We've improved defensively the catching position. We have the depth in center field to have improved. Brandon Nimmo is still going to be there, and confident that his defense will improve at least somewhat. But he's a very valuable player for a lot of other reasons. So I think our defense, particularly our ability to mix and match, is much better than it has been. And but we lead the league in fielding percentage and range and so forth. I don't know, but I think that we've improved it to the point where we're comfortable going into the season, and we'll just see how it plays out.
Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you all. Thank you, Steve and Sandy, for your participation today. And thank you to everybody else for joining in on today's Zoom call. A reminder that there will be a separate link sent for Louis